I've got 2 hours to spend in Blue Ridge, Georgia. What kind of trouble can I get myself into? Join us today as we do just a little Splorin.
Splorin!
Welcome, my friends, to Blue Ridge, Georgia, which has easily become one of the fastest growing tourist destinations in all of Appalachia.
Where's the hooch?
I've only got 2 hours here in Blue Ridge today, but wow, 5 minutes in, they're already giving me quite the show. There they go, never to be seen again. There's the official tour guide. He doesn't seem to have to pedal. I don't know how I feel about that. Jolly, I guess. I feel jolly. Blue Ridge is one of those destinations that I've been wanting to get to for the last several years, but for whatever reason, every time that I'm anywhere nearby, something happens. I get distracted, somebody else gets distracted, life is distracting, and I don't get over here. Well, today, I'm making sure that it happens. I've got 2 hours here in Blue Ridge, and the question is, what can I do in 2 hours that I can do as a single person? Family's not here today. Friends are not here today. What can I do without spending an absolute fortune? And what can I do when it looks like it's going to start pouring rain on me at any moment? You may see some rain come down. You may see me duck into a couple of shops. I guess we're going to find out together. Blue Ridge is another one of these little mountain towns. It's at the very northern end of Georgia. If you've seen my Murphy, North Carolina video before, this is, I don't know, I'd say about 20 to 30 minutes away from there. This is a little south of there. This is north of Atlanta. Wow. Can we take a moment to appreciate what is left of that bug over there at that seemingly closed, possibly abandoned auto repair shop? Like so many of these little towns in the northern part of Georgia, the southern part of North Carolina, and Tennessee, this area has had a little bit of a renaissance. It was already starting to grow when the pandemic hit, and when the pandemic did hit, it just sort of exploded because people weren't able to travel for obvious reasons. So Airbnbs in the area just kind of exploded. I won't say overnight, but close to overnight, and have kind of continued since then. These little downtown areas were great little, let's call them staycations for people in the general area. A lot of people coming from Atlanta, from Macon, from Charlotte, from Asheville, cities like that in the sort of near area. Found a city full of history, lots of little Airbnbs and bed and breakfasts, and a town that was achingly ready for their tourist dollars. As of today's filming, it is now October the 20th, 2025. As you can see, Blue Ridge already has its Christmas decorations, well, a lot of them at least, set up. The lights, at least. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of what you would call wreaths or garland or anything like that, but the lights are definitely set up and pretty much ready to go. Oh, and by the way, the train tracks you see right here, those are part of what has made Blue Ridge what it is over the last many decades. Right over there you can see it. It's the Blue Ridge Scenic Railway. You can get on this particular train most of the year, but here in late October, this is probably one of the most popular times. It's got a whole bunch of passenger cars, some of them open air, some of them closed, different classifications from more of a premium to the cheap seats, if you will, where you could take a train trip through the Blue Ridge Mountains and see all the changing leaves and the old bridges, the towns, the waterways. Like so many of these scenic railroads in the Christmas season, they're going to turn it into the Polar Express, where you can go with your kids and they'll give you some sort of treat like the cookies and hot chocolate, and they'll sing to you, which I do not want to participate in because I always find it awkward when adults dressed like elves sing to me.
I make you Randy.
Now, there will come a time where I take this particular trip myself. Today is not going to be that day. I have about 2 hours as I am in between destinations, and that is not going to be enough time to take this train trip, but boy, I got to tell you, I am a little jealous of these folks who do have the time to do it today. Blue Ridge itself is sort of an interesting mix of the new and the old. As you can see, looking across over here, this is a fairly new installation over here. You've got a whole bunch of restaurants, you've got some offices, there's a lot of realtors down here, but then you also have these historic old buildings as well. It's kind of interesting because they're right next to each other, but it's such a big difference just across the street. Right over there we have something called the Gartrell Building, I believe? Yes. Second story mini golf games and family fun. So if you've ever been to Gatlinburg before, some of this stuff might look fairly familiar. Now, I would say that Blue Ridge is a little less bright and loud than what you would find in Gatlinburg. You're not going to find anything like a Ripley's or a Guinness Book of World Records. You're not going to find a lot of go-karts and things like that down here. But you are going to find, for instance, a fudgery. You know, I love me a fudgery. You're going to find candy stores. You're going to find little antique stores, t-shirt shops, little restaurants. You're going to find bars. Just a ton of things for the family to do on an afternoon. And as you can see, there is a lot of foot traffic going through here. If you've watched Splorin before, you know that I am a sucker for very cool architecture, and I want to point out some of the work that's been done on this particular brick building across the street. The flourishes above the door in particular are incredible. I like the corner door that it's got on it. And as you can see, there is a realtor that is based out of there. As I said, there's a ton of real estate going on here in Blue Ridge, and that is because so many people from, I'd say, 2000 till still now have bought cabins and lodges and little properties that they could turn into Airbnbs. And for a while there, this was considered to be the best investment in short-term investments for the East Coast. I don't know that it necessarily still is. It's been a couple of years since the last time I looked. I would imagine by this point, you probably have missed the proverbial train if you haven't already got on it. That's not to say that there's no investment to be made here. There still is. It's just, a lot more competition than you would have gotten 5 years ago. One of the things I've always kind of wished that I was able to do is to share some of these smells that come out of these little cities with you when I'm going through them. This particular city smells fantastic. As I said, there's a lot of eateries, there's a lot of barbecue, there's a lot of steakhouses. Right across from me is the Whiskey and Water. I know very little about it outside of what I can see, but I can tell you, it smells like fried seafood. Good fried seafood. And as you can see from this mural, and you know I loves me some public art, there's a reason it smells like good seafood. The General Ledger right here, very popular restaurant. As you can see, there's a lot of people waiting outside. This particular building apparently was built in 1926. From the look of things, and judging by the name of the building, I'm guessing this probably used to be a bank back in the day. Beautiful, beautiful stonework. And yes, up there, Fannin County. I think it's supposed to say county. Fannin County Bank. Okay. Back when the letter U was written as a letter V. Back in 1926. My grandparents are always talking about back before they had U's. As happening as the town might seem today, it is also a Sunday, and we are, my friends, in the buckle of the Bible Belt. And that means that on Sunday, a lot of places are closed. Not the first time that we have stumbled onto this particular, I don't want to say problem, but let's say this particular tradition. Yeah, let's say tradition here in the South. And speaking of the South, welcome to Southern Charm, Southern Cooking in an old, looks like an old manor house. Although, from the look of things, I'm not entirely sure it's all that old. What I do know, however, is that it is in fact closed. Sorry, we are closed. Sunday is our staff's day to rest, relax, and worship. Being the South and being a Southern-themed restaurant, they have plenty of country platters, including meatloaf, chicken livers and onions, country fried steak, veggie plate, pork chops, hamburger steak, chicken biscuit pot pie. Yeah, this is pretty Southern. Let's see, fish and more. Do they have it? They do. Fried catfish. You cannot have Southern food without fried catfish. Local rainbow trout. Honestly, the menu looks pretty good. There is one thing that I'm seeing, however, that is getting a little bit of a chuckle from me. As you can see right here, there is a message about no animals except for service animals. And right over here, there's a thing about service animals. And right over here is a piece about service animals. And right over here is a thing about service animals. And right over here is a thing about service animals. And right over here is a thing about service animals. So really what I'm getting at is leave your Yorkie at home. As I mentioned earlier, there are several different types of cars on this particular scenic railroad. You can see right over here, these ones are indoor cars. They are set up with your typical front-facing and rear-facing seats near the windows. Likewise, they have a couple of private cars that if you want to rent those out for the trip, you can do so. They are obviously a little bit more expensive. And back here, as you move towards the back of the train, you can see they've got these open-air ones where the seats are more bench-like, and they face directly towards the windows, so you're not turning your head as you're riding. This time of year, it's not all that cold, so that would not be a bad choice at all. Like I said, they are open air. You're going to get a breeze. I would imagine once you get into the winter months, it might be worth spending a few bucks and getting inside, however. Oh, zipline canopy tours of Blue Ridge. You know you've reached it when you find the angry elk that look like they're covered in feathers. Feathers. Looks like they got a tour just getting ready to take off right now. There's the people I mentioned sitting on those benches, getting ready to go see some autumn leaves. The green-eyed monster, I assure you, has crawled into my brain. Blue Ridge Distillery is right over here. I would imagine being in the Blue Ridge area, they probably have brandies and stuff. Yes, actually I can see in the windows now. Apple brandy, watermelon rum, peach brandy. I wonder if they actually distill here or if they just sell here. From the look of things, I'm guessing they just sell here. Doesn't look big enough to be doing much else. Very interesting smell in there. It's very fruity from the peach and the apple, and it kind of smells like a cross between a farmer's market and Uncle Tim. God bless his soul. Looks like they've got a Hampton Inn down here. Boy, if you want to stay down here and you don't have an Airbnb, this Hampton Inn would be perfect. Right alongside the train, which does not run at night, as I understand, for the most part, so you'll get a nice quiet night's sleep, but it's here on the main drag. You could not get much more convenient than that. Some newer and rather fancy restaurants across the street grace a prime steakhouse. That looks like it's pretty brand new, but it also looks like it would be very at home at Beverly Hills, especially if you've never been to Beverly Hills and can't fact check me on that. Interesting building over here. They've got the Pasta Market and the Twisted Tomato, but it's part of Hampton Square Dining, Shopping, and Entertainment District. I wonder if this is a food hall. I do loves me a food hall. If you've never seen a food hall before, they are increasingly popular, especially in these small towns in the downtown areas, where they will take an old, larger building. Oftentimes it's either a warehouse or possibly a train depot, something like that, and they will put multiple small restaurants and eateries and shops into that area, and they all share the building, they share the costs, so you can get 5 to 20 little businesses in one building. They're incredible. Before we go in there, however, I see something that I need to check out just in case it's not here when I come back. Look at this. ElGordoRumCakeLady.com. Cuban food and rum cakes. Goes with this restaurant over here. Kind of looks a little familiar though. That's kind of cool looking. Smells really good here too. But alas, I've already eaten lunch today, so back we go to Blue Ridge downtown. So unfortunately, it does not look like this is, in fact, a food hall. And other than the Twisted Tomato and the pasta market, it doesn't look like anything is actually open, at least not at the moment. But again, it's a Sunday, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised by that. Disappointed? Sure, but not surprised. Heading back down to the main thoroughfare, we're going to head across the street to what I would consider to be the more, I don't want to say touristy, but touristy section of Blue Ridge. More little shops, more little cafes, things like that. So if you were going to spend any amount of time down here and you have a diverse group with you, you're probably going to spend more time on the side of the street that we are heading to now. Now, it's just not an old-time old town until you've got yourself a Coca-Cola mural. In this case, next to the Cohuta Fishing Company, Fly Shop, Guide Service and Travel. Apparently they've got multiple locations down here in Blue Ridge. Currently, it smells like a really good hamburger downtown. So, even though I've already eaten, I could still admire and respect a delicious smell. Worth noting, the streets are pretty narrow here because, again, this town was not specifically set up for the tourism that it receives these days. They've done a great job with it, but this was a town set up for living, not for tourism. Got some art galleries here. Ooh, I don't know if you can see it, but right in that window is Spider-Man. I don't know if it's art, but I like it. I like these little alleys in between the buildings too. And you can see the buildings are actually pretty small when you see these original ones. Right across the street is the rod making class and custom bamboo fly rod class for the Oyster, which is the name of this particular building right over here. Tiny little balcony up on top. Blue Ridge Knife Shop. T-shirts, knives, weapons, football, things like that. It's your men's collectibles, generally it looks like. Now, I don't want to be overly sexist, but in this area, that is what they are trying to go for. Why do I know? Well, right there it says Man Cave Decor on the window. This is closed today, but I like the name, the Mafioso Whiskey and Cigar Company. Whiskey and Cigar Bar. Free Wi-Fi. It says it is closed. Right here, however, the Black Bear Beer Garden with this rather aggressive looking fellow is wide open. And by the way, husband daycare center. Need time to relax, need time to be yourself, need time to go shopping. We'll leave your husband with us. We'll look after him for you. That is awfully outgoing of them. Again, just a very surreal looking area. Look at that area pushed back off the main route there. Another fishing business over here. Not open today. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe they are. They just pushed the door open over here. Give you an idea as to what's inside one of these fly fishing stores. Clothes. Yetis. And Duke Cannon products. Are you not familiar with Duke Cannon products? Well, now you are. Just realized at the bottom of this particular tavern they have the Blue Ridge Olive Oil Company, which looks like sea salts, herbs, rubs, gifts, olive oils, and balsamic vinegars. Well, again, you're not really a downtown area until you have some sort of olive oil / tea / rub. Well, rub place can be multiple different things, I suppose. We find ourselves now outside of Huck's General Store. Loves me a general store. Wow, easily the busiest building that I have seen in Blue Ridge so far, and they do have a boat full of candy, which I'm sure you were all questioning very recently. That is a general store. Got a bunch of old school candies here: Chico Stick, Chuckles, Clark Bars, Crunchies. Got your Haribos. Interesting. Different popcorns and hot sauces. T-shirts featuring Sasquatch and bears. Old school Lemonhead boxes. Charleston chews. Glass bottles. Oh my gosh, they have Dad's root beer. Interesting. So busy. Lots of soaps. Just stepped into the Tupelo Tea Company. I think I'm going to get myself a chai because, you know, it's autumn in the mountains. As I mentioned, I went with the chai. This is the Rooibos chai, which is a red herbal tea chai. It's chai, but with Rooibos instead of black tea. And as you can see from the skies, the fact that my 2 hours is almost up is probably a good thing. Cool looking little courtyard here. Places to sit, places to enjoy your Rooibos chai, for instance. And surprisingly few realtors. Another very cool looking building slash house slash what have you across the street with a little bit of a clock tower on it, and then next to it is the Lofts on Main. I don't know if those really are lofts or if they're just called that, but cool looking building regardless. And next to it, King Edward Cigar Company. The wind has certainly picked up a lot too, so I would definitely say the weather is turning quickly. This is the Blue Ridge Cotton Company. This is the bottom of the lofts that we mentioned before. It's a clothing company, but certainly not lofts. I do love all the murals they've got here. They've really embraced this old-timey look. The Africa Corner and Beyond Safari and Trading Post. That is interesting. Also love this Harvest on Main. Fresh approach to food. Look at the architecture on this. That is absolutely incredible. Okay, it is officially a touristy area. They do have the Spice and Tea Exchange. Blue Ridge Mountain Mall, which appears to be just a little bit of everything. Just picked up a little something here for my wife. It is Blind Date with a Book. You don't know what kind of, well, you know what kind of book you're getting, but you don't know what book you're getting. Interesting. I have to say, this place is very interesting. Well, as promised, it's a fudgery. And quite the fudgery it is. It's not just fudge, it's also homemade candies and ice cream. Things I should not eat. And so, begrudgingly, I will move on. They've got one of those escape games here with Bigfoot standing next to the disembodied head of Bigfoot and Dumbledore, who's wearing Sperry's. Huh. When in Rome? And just when I thought I couldn't get any better, they have a second fudgery. I'm going to show a little bit of restraint and instead head into Sunrise on Blue Ridge. Kind of another general store of sorts. It's a doozy. You know, that's good advice. Admittedly, that makes me smile. Oh, this is interesting. Wow. Keep going to Garden Gallery. That is very unexpected. I like this place. Love dogs and cats too. Pet shop and zip lines. Look at this over here. It looks like an old gas station they converted into like a pet boutique of sorts. And a realtor. Got a record store over here. A lot of used records, it looks like. Look at this old Rexall's Drugs neon sign out here. And this is just outside the Blue Ridge Antique Mall and Consignment. Do love me an antique store. As always, when I'm in an antique store, I am looking for old school tiki. Not tiki. Don't usually find a whole lot of it in the mountains, however. That's always worth a look. Well, as usual, no tiki, but wasn't expecting it, so not much of a letdown. And perhaps coincidentally, our 2-hour limit coincides with returning to where we began in front of the Fannin County Courthouse. So, I think it is time for us to say adieu. And if you, my friend, have enjoyed this particular video, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up down below. If you like this type of video, small town exploration, things like historic cemeteries and special events, perhaps tiki, I'd love to have you join us. Reach down below, hit that subscribe button, and you'll be alerted every time a new video comes out. And hey, I hope you enjoyed and will join us again next time when we do just a little more Splorin.